Hey, today we'll talk about 7 tips for getting the most out of your workday. 5 years ago exactly, I started working from home, and the most hardest thing for me from getting a job to working from home is that, at home, I didn't really have an office. So we'll talk about that. And at work, you just work, everybody's working. So it was a little bit different. So I had to really learn how to adjust, how to get the most out of my day, because you're working from home, so you don't know what's happening. So here's the best 7 tips I can tell you that I can master my whole day. Tip number 1. Make sure you have a morning routine. Make sure the most important thing in your day is your morning. And listen, I'm not a believer from anybody that says they're not a morning person. It doesn't matter what time you wake up, just make sure you have you time before you attack your day. You gotta understand, as a businessman, businesswoman, you wake up and you have a billion emails to get to, a billion messages to get to, social media, all these things. Make sure you don't wake up to respond to them. And the reason why I say this is because I've had days where I woke up and I start doing that, and I noticed that my day is not fully productive. But when I wake up and I have some certain habits that I gotta do early in the morning so I can control my day before my day controls me. Here's tip number 2. Make sure you plan your day ahead. Look, I'm a big believer in having a small schedule of what's happening the next day. And the reason why is you wake up ready to go. Rather than waking up and figure out what you're gonna do that day, you're not gonna wake up as excited. When you wake up knowing exactly what you're gonna do the second day, it's easier for you to conquer your day. I remember when I was a younger kid, when we used to go to these trips, because I exactly knew what was gonna happen in that trip, I woke up so excited. I woke up early, I had my clothes ready, so I woke up right away. If I had something going on in any specific day in my life, when I knew that day was gonna happen, the entire day was more productive. So I started thinking, well, what if my work, I can wake up and I can know exactly what's gonna happen. And make sure you do that the night, just a little bit the night before, so you can really have a plan the second day. Here's number 3, and this is a big one. Make sure you find a place that fits your mood. Listen, we can all have different moods. We can all have different places, but make sure you have a place that fits your mood. Make sure work is work and sleep is sleep. I see a lot of people, and I'm not a big fan of this. They work on their bed. Listen, I'm all for, working from home and having the freedom, but I'm all for that I have to separate the place. You gotta understand, when you're in your bedroom, as soon as your brain is designed and programmed, as soon as they walk into a room, that room, maybe it's a sleeping room, right? So designed to sleep here. There's a work zone, so your brain is designed to get here to work. And keep reminding you gotta get to work, you gotta get to work. There's a place for certain things. So make sure that you create an atmosphere in your work that fits exactly your mood, and it can enhance your mood and make sure you focus on it. One of the tips I can give you guys is there's a study that happened a couple years ago, and it was seeing if somebody would be more active, better working in an environment where they didn't create and versus an environment that they create. Even down to the temperature. Can you guys imagine? They noticed that having the room too cold wouldn't be able to let you work to your full abilities, but if the room was warm temperature, you would be able to actually work. So my point is, try a couple things up until you find your mood, and once you find that, make sure you double down on that. Here's tip number 4 is you have to be able to control your feelings, or at least notice how you're feeling. It's impossible to have a happy day every single day. It's impossible to conquer your day every single day. There's some days you conquer and some days you are conquered. Just make sure you track that feeling and make sure you see why. One of the things that I noticed, that say I woke up in the morning, if I eat in the morning, I feel like that I'm not able to stretch myself. But if I'm hungry and I push my food up until 1 o'clock, I feel better. So I started doing that. And then I noticed that if I eat too big of a meal, maybe at 12 o'clock, it really slows down my feelings and I feel like I want to sleep or I'm a little tired. I noticed that maybe certain foods I have to eat at certain times. You see, everything's an experiment. So here's a task for you. You can have literally a 7-day schedule that every single day you track 2 things. Number 1, what are you doing every single hour? And the second thing, what you're eating and how are you feeling from that. That's how you know the things that are working versus the things that are not working, so you can take out and add on, so you can have the best feeling every day you're working. Now let's talk about number 5, and probably this is the most important one. Be aware of multitasking. Listen, there are so many studies that has happened over and over and over again that says multitasking is not the way. I know a lot of people that brag about how they can do a million things at once, but guess what? Jack of all trades, master of none. You gotta be able to focus on one thing, finish that task, and move on to the next task. I've tried so many times to do the multitasking, doing this and doing this at the same time. It just turns out when I do one thing at a time, I'm 10 times focused. The result of that thing is 10 times better. Here's number 6. Get more out of your evenings. You see, a lot of the times you have evenings, you have a little bit downtime. This is the time where sometimes you focus on developing you, sometimes you take on researching things, on developing what you can do better, on developing a new skill set, developing something better. Take the time at night to enhance the way, not just always be sitting on Netflix or, oh, I'm done work and let me watch this and I have Game of Thrones or whatever it is that you guys are watching. Make sure you're developing. And last but not least, number 7 is sometimes you gotta take a step back and recharge. Now, don't misunderstand this the way you take 2 weeks off. Nobody recharges in 2 weeks. I take a step back and recharge is typically a couple hours a night where you can recharge your mind, where you're not thinking about work no more, where you start with your being grateful and planning things and see what drives you, see what makes you happy and do that. Sometimes you gotta just take a small weekend, a small night and go to a comedy show. One of the times I feel like I'm not progressing, I go to a comedy show and start laughing. And I promise you, I got an idea at a comedy show to do something in my business that produced me a lot of money. So sometimes is when you take a step back and recharge, make sure you're aware of what's happening around you and you're aware of collecting ideas at anywhere. You're taking a step and recharging. Just think of ideas while you're recharging and make sure you come back with brand new ideas and recharge so you can dominate your business.